So did's debut EP, a Portuguese duo that mixes new wave with a strong noise rock feeling. Despite using the sound of synthesizers as fuel, they maintain a rough sound that becomes as captivating as the contagious songs they present. There is definitely a nostalgic feeling throughout these 7 songs, and we don't deny that they are the ones that captivate us the most. That delicious taste of the decadence of the early 80s before it became a mass product and lost its flavor. Nonconformity is timeless, and here we have 7 little proofs of that.
I confess that I didn't expect anything from this. Not by the cover, not by the name of the band, not even by the description of the press release, which tells us that this debut album would be inserted in a horror punk context. Which isn't exactly wrong. Lyrically speaking. The point is really the music that comes to us as a powerful and addictive melodic punk rock, a sound aesthetic that we don't even associate much with horror punk. Considering how the songs turn out, the disappointment is not too great. Just adjust the programming to receive melodic punk rock that is so sweet that it must even give diabetes. A powerful record in sound and addictive in melodies, which results in an excellent debut.
More than 20 years of career that already deserved a live album. Rebellion may have been born out of Gravedigger, but from early on they showed themselves to be a very different band, despite maintaining their love for heavy/power metal, always with a strong inspiration for history and literature. After a successful Iberian tour, the band decided to take the concert they gave in Valencia, and the photos taken by Fernando Ferreira in Portugal, and release their first live album. An album that is a celebration of their power on stage. Sound and interpretations at the best level, with some of their classics becoming immortalized, as well as the inevitable "The Clans Are Marching" that baptized the band more than 2 decades ago. A must-have piece of history.
Interesting and unexpected project with the participation of Paulo Jr. from Sepultura, which speaks to the heart of all those who miss Sepultura from the Chaos AD era. It may be a bit unfair to compare them, since Cultura trace identity is quite distinct, but the organic sound that is found here, as well as the mix between thrash and hardcore, makes it inevitable not to think of Sepultura. Apart from this obvious connection, Camino de Brujos is a crossover album that has merit in itself for the way it brings together thrash, hardcore, and also that sludge a la Crowbar. In fact, sludge is even able to be the main star of what we can find here, although this is one of those albums that we do not define in a simple way, which further piques the interest.
Portuguese extreme metal reaching abroad, going practically unnoticed in its own country. Maybe it's something common, we have no way of knowing right now, but what matters to note is that there are good reasons for Concilium, a Portuguese black metal project, to continue to be a good bet by Sentient Ruin Laboratories, center of everything that is extreme, claustrophobic and cavernous metal. Labels and adjectives that fit perfectly in this 3rd album of originals. More than riffs and individual performances, more even than the songs themselves, what stands out and rises above everything else is the way this album is a piece of metallic filth that only the most faithful lovers of extreme and hermetic music will want to know. And they will certainly be mesmerized by it. Definitely even.
Is it possible to have organic electronic music that sounds current by the way it borrows the modus operandi of synthesizer music from decades ago? Or to put it another way, is it possible to combine a number of different factors, well more than those mentioned above, and still have music that sounds coherent and focused? Yes, of course it is. After all, we already knew Jegong, an entity that takes experimentalism to the limit, but never loses sight of making great music. Yes, the experimental factor might put off some of the listeners who might like vintage electronic music, but we believe that the vast majority will be able to appreciate this second work, which sees the band nonconformist and wanting to deepen the challenge of their music even more. And they managed to do it, with praise.
Slow Crush are one of the shoegaze hippest of the European scene, and Hush, their latest work, is a confirmation of the validation of that fact. They deserve attention, especially when they present an album like this, Hush, that comes with a drown, in the good post-rock way that could well have been explored for twice the duration that nobody would complain. However, The band are used to surprising us by doing exactly what they feel they should do and not what is expected and demanded of them. Their sense of ambience is still very deep, without losing sight of the songs, of having songs in the traditional sense of their definition. That ambience and Issa Holiday's voice make us hopelessly surrendered to her power, which is more than a lot.
Fucking Slayer. Oops, I mean enforced. Now let's get serious. War Remains was an album quite anticipated by all of those who got captured by the thrash metal magic from US band Enforced, and there's enough material here to get them not only satisfied, but even mesmerized by the take no prisoners attitude displayed over a little more than half an hour. War Remains is an uncomplicated thrash metal album, much like Slayer themselves once were. And despite the initial banter, this is an album that manages to drink from the Slayer source, but doesn't just stop there. It will drink from the source of thrash metal / crossover, sounds classic and traditional, and yet it is not something that sounds out of time when listening today, now in 2023. One of the great albums of the year that we can say without any doubt that it is already a classic.